Okay, welcome everybody to the April Watertown School District School Board meeting. I'll call the meeting to order and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, under the consent agenda, item 2.1, roll call. Please note all board members are present. Item 2.2, are there any conflicts of interest that board members need to disclose this evening on agenda or other items? Okay, if not, 2.3, review and approval of this agenda. Could we have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Iverson and second by Ms. Moulton to approve the agenda. Any comments or questions on it? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, that passes. 2.4, approve the minutes of the March 14th meeting. Could we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Motion by Mrs. Lohr,
Second.
second by Mr. Stein. Any comments or questions on those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2.5, we'll receive the financial reports for March 2022.
Thank you. In the general and special education funds, received the typical amount of taxes along with the regular state aid payment. The expenditures exceeded the revenue during the month as typical for March. The ending cash position of these funds reflects a slight increase when compared to the prior years. The revenue consists of the typical tax proceeds along with interest income in the fund of capital outlay. The cash balance of $7.7 million includes approximately $2.8 million in unexpended capital outlay certificates in support of the high school renovation project. The revenue during the month was relatively moderate and consists of several different sources in the fund of Lake Area Technical College. The expenditure significantly exceeded the revenue for March as typical. The ending cash position of this fund is relatively similar to that of the previous year. In the Employee Benefit Trust, the premium and administrative costs during the month of March exceeded the claims. The ending cash position of this fund remains at a relatively healthy level to support future liabilities. Other activity included operation in the K-12 Nutrition Fund with significant federal funding, operating under the free meal status. It is important to note that free meals are noted to close at the end of this school year as Congress voted against covering school meals going into the 2022-23 school year. Starting in the fall of 2022, parents and guardians will again be responsible for paying for school meals. We are urging families to plan now. I will provide information later in the meeting on the communication that went out to families last week regarding this. Under the Lake Area Technical College Enterprise Operations, expenditures in the bookstore, food service, and educare were typical for the month of March with the replenishment of inventory and general operations meeting the needs of daycare services. I'd be happy to answer any questions should you have any.
Did you mention driver's ed?
Yes, thank you, Jean. In driver's ed, we saw tuition come in for that operation as we gear up for the summer program. We had tuition fees come in, and a reminder on that the cost is $330 per student, and we are offering an online payment option for that, and I believe we are filled for the summer program. Thank you.
Thanks.
I would add on, just since we brought up driver's ed, just our appreciation to Arrowed for their support and to helping with tuition assistance for those who qualify. So as long as we brought up driver's ed, give them a little plug.
Yes, thank you to them as well.
Okay, any other comments or questions related to the financial reports? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the student staff recognitions.
All right, we've got some students to be recognized tonight and a staff member. So the following students qualified for the National Speech and Debate National Tournament in June. This event will be hosted in Louisville, Kentucky. In the duo and terp category, Garrett Von Eye and Noel Dunn. And then in dramatic interp, Vivian Hughes. And then we had some quarterfinalists in the public forum debate at the state debate tournament in Harrisburg. Congratulations to Lucy Walker and Josie Compton. And then an award for a coach for our speech and debate program. Congratulations to Coach Jordan Bakken for receiving his National Speech and Debate Association First Diamond for coaching. This equates to 5 years of coaching and 15,000 student points earned. He'll receive this award at the national tournament in Louisville, Kentucky in June. And then finally, we had a state champion in Class A wrestling this year at the 113-pound weight class. Congratulations to Sloan Johansson. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Danielson. We'll move on now to the discussion items for Lake Area. And first of all, 3.1, is there any public input on agenda or non-agenda items this evening for Lake Area? Seeing none, we'll move to 3.2, and President Cartney is here to give us a placement report.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. This is the graduate placement report for our 2021 graduates. Next slide, please. This is kind of an eye chart, but I tried to put the big numbers at the bottom so you don't have to wear your pencil out doing the math. 96% of our graduates responded. We had 99.1% placement again. That's as you work through the placement or work through the numbers. That's 14% that are continuing their education, and about 84%, almost 85% that are employed. And then they had an average salary of $23.16. That's up almost $2 per hour. And remember, this is the folks that started last year, so the inflation that you're hearing about now hasn't hit these wages yet. But that's a starting salary on average of over $48,000 per year. So, and 85% of those young people are staying in South Dakota. That's good news, given that this year the incoming class only 81% were from South Dakota. So just a quick, a little bit of visual on the placement, but that's how it looks. The state does allow it. If you crunch the numbers really close, the state does allow us. Those that are not in the labor market are not counted against us in the placement report. So if you're doing the math and trying to figure out, you got to make sure to add that little nuance in there, but it only makes about 0.5% difference. Next slide, please. And placed in the field, you can see that, of the graduates that are placed, 92% are placed in their field of study. And then you have another 83% that are in their field of study in South Dakota. So we're very pleased with the results of the survey and where our grads are going. You can see that we had a number of programs that had 100% placement of their graduates, and we're that's quite a watermark when you've got all your grads placed within right after graduation. Next. The other is that you can see that these are the number of programs that are earning over $27 an hour for a starting salary. So they're at about $56,000 to start, and you can see a number of those programs. The highest was energy technology. Their average starting salary was over $35 an hour to start. That's well over $74,000 a year as a starting salary, and some of those are making in excess of six figures to start. So a big thank you to the Department of Labor and Julie Mullenhoff. They do an exceptional job each year. This is a third-party report. This isn't one that we generate, but rather it's one that the Department of Labor does the research for us, does the contacting of the students, and they actually pull in also the unemployment insurance data and cross-check that against their numbers to make sure that the wage salaries and so forth are correct. So I'd certainly stand for any questions that you may have on the placement report.
Do they include, as part of this report, how many stay in the state of South Dakota?
Yes, ma'am. 85.6% stayed in South Dakota this year. And that actual number is right on that first chart. I think 650 stayed in South Dakota of the 761 that responded to the.
Thank you for repeating that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. We'll move on to the action items for Lake Area, and first of all, we've got the personnel items, 4.1.1, the resignations.
Yes, ma'am, you have 5 resignations in front of you. We recommend your acceptance of those those resignations as presented.
Can I have a motion to accept the resignations, please?
I'll make a motion to accept resignations.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Lohr, second by Mr. Stein. Comments or questions? Hearing none, all of it in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 4.1.2, the contract recommendations and addendums.
Yes, ma'am, yeah, the contract recommendations fairly typical for this kind of time of year. What I do want to mention is just a typo, and that is that Brian, Mom, Stacy, Wirchus, and Sheree Herba, those are, I'm sorry, not Sheree's. The second line of Ellie Longville, those are actually corporate education contracts. But we'd recommend your acceptance of those recommendations and addendums.
Okay, could we have a motion to accept, please?
Move approval.
Motion-
Second.
Motion by Mr. Stein and a second by Mrs. Lohr to accept the contract recommendations and addendums. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll move to 4.2 and the property issues. First of all, we have point 1, which is to consider the custodial services bid.
Yes, ma'am. Lake Area Tech recommends accepting the sole bid from TP Services Incorporated for custodial cleaning services at a rate of $30 per hour for general cleaning services, $33 per hour for supervision, and $45 an hour for management. This bid did meet all specifications, and the hours are subject as assigned with a period of performance that's through June 30th of 2022.
I move that we accept the custodial cleaning services bid.
Motion by Mr. Iverson and a second by Ms. Moulton. Comments or questions on the custodial services bid? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. 4.2.2, consider lease agreements.
Yes, ma'am. Lake Area Tech recommends approval of lease agreements to support the Heavy Equipment Operator Program as well as our Diesel Technology Program. For the Heavy Equipment Operator Program, there's a lease for a dozer to replace an existing lease because the equipment that we had was sold. And then a short-term lease for a crane to teach students and get their crane certifications. There was also an excavator from TransSource for the Heavy Equipment Program. Kibble Equipment, a step forward, and is providing a no-cost lease for a combine in support of our Diesel Technology Program. We'd recommend your approval of those agreements.
I move approval of the lease agreements as presented.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Moulton and a second by Mr. Iverson. Any comments or questions on the lease agreements?
Thank you to our corporate sponsors for helping us out, particularly with the no lease agreements.
Yes, ma'am. The no lease agreements are something that not only helps us, but it really lets the students get the access to the latest equipment, so that we really appreciate Kibble and the others that step forward and provide those.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 4.2.3, approval of the SDHEFA bond refinance resolution.
Yes, ma'am. South Dakota House and Education Facilities Agency is requesting your approval of the proposed resolution to refinance and restructure the bond debt used in financing buildings at Lake Area Tech prior to 2013. This restructure and refinancing will create an estimated $3 million in cost savings for the state and for the tech system students during the repayment of these bonds. Lake Area Tech recommends your approval of this resolution.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Iverson and a second from Ms. Moulton to approve the bond refinance resolution. Any comments or questions on that one? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Point 4, we've got authorization to bid parking lot projects.
Yes, ma'am. Lake Area Tech requests their authorization to bid parking lots in preparation for the diesel expansion and the archway projects. As we remove properties adjacent to the campus, there are opportunities to expand the parking on both sides of the south parking lot and in the current daycare location, as well as across the street from the daycare on the former triplex property lot. Expanding parking this summer will allow Lake Area Tech to provide the additional spaces needed through the construction process. I request your permission or your authorization to seek those bids.
I move approval of the authorization to bid the parking lots projects as presented.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Moulton and second by Mr. Iverson. Comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And moving on to 4.2.5, authorization to enter into Department of Education grant agreement.
Yes, ma'am. Lake Area Tech requests authorization to enter into a grant agreement with the South Dakota Department of Education to administer their career and technical student organizations for the state of South Dakota. The purpose of the restructure is to house all of the career and technical student organizations under a central leadership team to maximize efficiency and provide benefits, supports, and access to South Dakota's secondary and post-secondary students. The agreement establishes a state director position and gives Lake Area Tech administrative oversight of the directors of the following student organizations: Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America, Educators Rising, Future Business Leaders of America, Future Farmers of America, the Health Occupations Student Association or Future Healthcare Professionals, Distributed Education Clubs of America, DECA, and the Skills USA. Currently, Lake Area Tech administers the Skills USA organization through an agreement with the Department of Education. The increased grant funding will cover the expenses to administer the students' organizations, and the grant of the term will begin May 1st to allow time for the hiring process. We request your authorization to enter into this grant agreement.
I move that we authorize this, to enter into this agreement with the Department of Education.
Motion by Mr. Iverson and a second by Ms. Moulton. Any comments, questions on that agreement? Okay, hearing none, all in favor to approve the agreement with the DOE, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, President Courtney.
Thank you, ma'am.
Next, we'll move on to the discussion items for 14-4. And first of all, 5.1, is there any public input this evening on agenda or non-agenda items for the K-12? Okay, if not, 5.2, we'll have a Northeast Tech High School report.
Thank you. The Board of Superintendents did not meet in April, but we are meeting here in May. So if there's anything to update, I'll update you next week or next month. The reminder to our board members, there is a Northeast Tech board meeting next Wednesday, the 20th at 5:45. And then I want to put out a notice on the 50th anniversary Lake Area Multi-District Northeast Technical High School 50th anniversary celebration. That's on Saturday, May 7th. 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. There's student projects, silent auction, a light lunch, car show, and raffles. And then an announcement and recognition of former instructors and staff members will take place at 1:30 p.m. That'll be right at the Northeast Tech campus with the car show, thanks to Lake Area. But we'll be using the new parking lot over there at Lake Area. So please join us there. Check out the projects and come see a little bit of history there with the 50th anniversary celebration for Northeast Tech.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move on to 5.3 and an early learning and student enrollment update. Dr. Heath, do you want to take it over?
Okay, sorry. First of all, I just want to thank Shannon and Heather for their help in putting this presentation together. And just to say that we've just finished our preschool screening and kindergarten screening process, and so it was fun to be part of that. I've never been able to be a part of a large district that's gone through that process, so it was really interesting getting to meet some of the families in the community and the excitement of the little kids that are ready to start school. So that was really fun. We're going to start with looking at our kindergarten. And so what we did is we went through and kind of put together some goals and then just some bullet points to talk about. Kindergarten is our full-day program that provides free, appropriate public education to all students, and instruction includes all state kindergarten content standards. So our requirements are that students must be 5 on or before September 1st. They need to reside in the Watertown School District or have an open enrollment form on file for intra-district or out-of-district open enrollment. There are no income guidelines. For students on IEPs and general education students, everyone's included. And then priority is given to students whose siblings are currently attending those schools. We're fortunate to have a junior kindergarten that's housed at Roosevelt Elementary. It's for 3 hours per day. A lot of the focus is on the social skills instruction, and it teaches readiness skills for kindergarten. Students who are age 5 on or before September 1st, and really geared towards when students go through the process, they go through a dial screening that kind of looks at their ability levels in gross motor, hearing, vision, speech, and language. And then they're just overall content, like being able to write their name and just some basic questions like that. We do look at the youngest age, which is typically the summer birthdays, and then also looking at parent requests if parents want their child to be in junior kindergarten, if they feel that they're just not ready for kindergarten quite yet. Then below it shows our enrollment numbers for the past 3 years, and then our projected enrollment, which we're currently sitting at 23 students for next school year. We have a preschool program that's housed at McKinley Elementary. Provides an opportunity for all students to be prepared with readiness skills for kindergarten and is title funded. Students must be age 4 on or before September 1st. Again, they must reside in the school district. And then there are some income guidelines that come with it just because it is a title funded program. So students must not be eligible for Head Start, and there's a poverty guideline associated with it as well. Priority is given to income eligibility, ELL students, homeless, children with behavioral needs, and they must reside in a title school boundaries of McKinley, Roosevelt, or Millette, migrant students, foster care, and at risk. There are 2 sections available, AM and PM, 3 hours a day for 4 days a week. And then again, our enrollment numbers are projected to be at 20 students for next year. At Garfield, we have a reverse inclusion program. And that program involves an inclusion concept where students with disabilities attend a preschool classroom where an equal amount of students without disabilities who are typically developing attend as well. So it gives those students good models. Students must be age 3 on or before September 1st for the 3-year-old program, or age 4 on or before September 1st for the 4-year-old program, and may not attend if 5 on September 1st. Again, they have to reside in the Watertown School District. They cannot be eligible for Head Start or McKinley, and the tuition will be $55 a month for the general ed students, and no income guidelines for students on IEPs. So the IEP in place for those students receiving special ed services, and none for general education students as far as special ed guidelines go. Priority is given to all non-IEP students who are screened for reverse inclusion preschool. And our predicted enrollment for next year is 81. We also provide early childhood services for children participating in Individuals with Disabilities Education Act Part B program for students aged 3 to 5. It also includes those participating in Part C if they are identified as in need of prolonged assistance, so those students with significant disabilities. The eligibility is upon their 3rd birthday. They must reside in the school district. They must have a current IEP in place, and are projected, well, this year was at 60. It's hard to predict what next year will be because those are kind of like a case-by-case basis. Are there any questions?
So what's the main difference between Head Start and what we offer? Is it similar? They have totally different guidelines, or is it hard to explain?
I know that we base our preschool, our 4-year-old preschool over at McKinley. We base that off the Head Start guidelines. It is financial. They've got a financial guidelines for Head Start. So those students qualify. They must go to Head Start, and Head Start. Involved in Head Start, they also do, I believe they do food, and they also do transportation. So so those students that qualify will go there first, and then above that qualification then comes to our preschool.
Thank you.
But there are standards for them. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. It's always confusing.
Yeah.
Wonderful list of programs here, and thank you to all your staff who work with these children. Great big thank you.
Yeah, it is great. All right, thanks.
All right, thank you, Dr. Heath. Now we'll move on to 5.4, and we've got first readings of 3 policies. First, point 1, we've got DKC for incidental accounts.
Thank you. Yes, the update to this policy is in regards to updating some of the verbiage. We used to have a high school impressed account that we ran some of our expenditures through. We no longer do, so we're just updating some of that information there. And then Lake Area Technical College, their impressed account used to take care of some of our credit card charges that we had. We no longer have that because of a program we have in place, the purchasing card program. So just updating a few of those items so that it follow some of the procedures that we have in place. So that's policy DKC.
All right, are there any comments or questions on that one from anybody? Okay, then 5.4.2, we've got policy EICA, which is the reimbursable spending account, Flex 125.
Yes, thank you. This policy update, it's following our guidelines for our classified staff. If they work 1,080 hours annually, they can take part in our Flex 125 account. This is following the guidance that we have been following. It was updated when the Affordable Care Act was in place, and those qualifying for health and dental had to work 6 hours versus the 7.5 hours that we had in place. So this is just updating that language as well.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions on that policy? And then in point 3, we're looking at KCAA, which is our Golden Age Senior Activity Passes.
Thank you. Yes, this policy was in place when we had the Golden Age Activity Pass. We now allow for those 65 and older that are in our community and outside of our community to attend our activities, district-sponsored, free of charge. Just a note that this offer is not available at district, regional, or state events, so it's just updating that policy to follow that guidance.
Okay, any comments or questions on the activity passes? I think it's wonderful to just include everybody in that.
Just show your driver's license.
Yep, there you go. All right, we'll move on to the action items for 14-4, and first of all, 6.1, approval of the bills.
I move approval of the bills.
Motion by Mr. Stein. Second by Ms. Moulton. Any comments or questions on the bills? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 6.2, we'll go to the personnel, and first of all, the resignations.
Yes, we have a few resignations for you. We have 4 activities and extracurricular upon suitable replacement, and then 6 certified and 3 classified for your consideration.
Okay, can we have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve resignations.
Motion by Mrs. Lohr. Second. And a second by Mr. Stein. Any comments or questions on those? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. 6.2.2, contract recommendations and addendums.
And as you can see with this, we've been busy filling positions, which are certified classified activities, extracurricular, and then also there's contracted hours, what are grant funded for our high school advisory.
Okay, could we have a motion to approve?
I move approval of the contract recommendations and addendums.
Motion by Mr. Stein,
Second.
second by Mrs. Lohr. Comments or questions?
I have, can you just clarify something, Mr. Stacy?
Yes,
High school advisory, is this a new group, old group, reformed group? There's like 7 names there.
I believe that is a committee carried over from last year, and we can turn around and ask Mr. Brandsrud, but I believe that's the committee coming back and looking at revising what they've done this year and to change for next year. Oh, but I believe that's what it is. It's the committee from last year
Okay.
coming back.
Is this the same personnel?
Yeah, I believe so. Okay.
Okay. So their mission is to,
Look at advisory, what they did this year, and look at what needs to be changed for next year.
so moving into next year, it's going to be the same scenario? Advisory will be the same?
If you're asking if it's going to be the same in the scheduled day per minutes throughout the year, I believe so.
It's still 5 days a week,
Yes, I
Yes.
believe so.
as it is this year?
Yes.
So the returning faculty and the new faculty will be facing the same situation as this year, 5 days a week,
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
There's been no action, or maybe I need to be updated as to removing the one impediment that causes overcrowded classes. So we haven't really addressed that. So next year, same as this year, teachers can expect crowded classes in some curriculum areas, usually the core curriculum areas. And many of those teachers have 80 to 90 students in those classes. And then as an added bonus, we're going to continue adding 20 more students with advisory to their day.
Well, I can tell you right now that the schedule for next year has not been completed.
Right.
So I cannot tell you the number of students in those classes and what the schedule looks like for next year.
Let's hope that some improvements have been made then. Particularly, teaching's high energy, and it takes every bit of that energy to devote your time to your students. So it's really unfair to students to have this huge number of students as a ratio to one teacher. And that's my comment for tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have the motion and second to approve the contract recommendations and addendums. Is there any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And 6.2.3, an authority to hire.
Yes, with the number of special ed students that we have at the various schools, we're asking for authority to hire 2 special ed instructors, and these are shared positions, both of them, between 2 buildings each.
Okay, could we have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the authority to hire.
Motion by Mrs. Lohr,
Second.
second by Mr. Stein. Comments or questions there? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to the property items, and we have 6.3.1, authorize continued participation in ASBSD's workers' comp coverage.
Thank you. The district requests to continue participation under the coverage benefits of associated school boards. As a reminder, a December 1 deadline is in place to provide board-approved written notice of the intent to seek bids for the subsequent coverage year. The renewal proposal for FY23 is an 8% decrease to premium from the current fiscal year. It is recommended to move forward with coverage under ASBSD.
Could we have a motion, please?
I move approval of the continuing participation in ASBSD's worker compensation program.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Moulton and a second by Mr. Iverson. Are there comments or questions on that authorization? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of continued participation in that workers' compensation coverage, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. 6.3.2, considered an amendment to Associated School Boards Protective Trust Joint Powers Agreement and bylaws.
Thank you. And then following that motion, as a member under the ASB Work Comp Fund in the Associated School Boards Protective Trust, the school board must approve and adopt proposed amendments to the ASB Protective Trust Joint Powers Agreement and bylaws. The last update took place in February of 2010, and therefore the changes are specific to language updates and general cleanup to the agreement. Updates to advisory committees is outlined to include an increase in members under each fund group. The changes also include the ability of the members to vote by electronic means. It is recommended to approve and adopt the proposed amendments.
Okay, could we have a motion, please?
I move that we propose that we do this amendment.
Motion by Mr. Iverson. Second by Ms. Moulton to approve the amendment to the ASB Protective Trust Agreement and bylaws. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. And 6.3.3, consider the Sourcewell Cooperative Boiler bid.
Thank you. The Watertown School District requests the authority to purchase a high-efficiency boiler for the Garfield Education Center in the amount of $77,250. The proposal is compliant under a Sourcewell bid contract in which the district is a member. The pricing meets the requirements established by the contract. This equipment purchase is budgeted out of fiscal year 2023 funding and will be accommodated by capital outlay funds.
Thank you, Heidi. We have a motion, please.
I move approval of the Sourcewell Cooperative Boiler bid as presented.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Moulton and a second by Mr. Iverson. Comments or questions on that boiler bid? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. 6.4, we need to approve the South Dakota High School Activities Association membership resolution.
Yes, this is the annual resolution to join the South Dakota High School Activities Association for those activities that are a part of that, recommending your approval.
Could we have a motion, please?
I move approval of the South Dakota High School Activities Association membership as presented.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Moulton and a second by Mr. Iverson. Any comments or questions on that? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 6.5, we have a ASBSD Board of Directors ballot election that we need to do.
Yes, this is for the Executive Board of the Associated School Boards of South Dakota, representing the Northeast region with enrollments of 266 to 999 students. You have 5 candidates. We are recommending the incumbent Shane Roth from DeSmet School District.
Do we have a motion, please?
I move that we cast our ballot for Shane Roth of DeSmet, the incumbent.
Motion by Mr. Iverson,
Second.
second by Mrs. Lohr. Any comments there? Hearing none, all in favor of casting our ballot for Mr. Roth, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And now we've got second readings of 3 policies. First, we've got 6.6.1, which is BEDG concerning the minutes.
The only change that was made from, were no changes from first reading to second reading, and just remind you, the only change that was made in the first place was from trust and agency to custodial funds under line.
Okay, could we have a motion to approve that policy change?
I move approval of the policy change.
Motion by Ms. Moulton,
Second.
second by Mr. Stein. Comments? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Move to point 2 and policy DB, which is concerning our annual budget.
Yes, same thing in this particular policy, the change from trust and agency to custodial, found at the end of the first paragraph. No updates from first reading to second reading, so recommend approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the annual budget second reading.
Motion by Mrs. Lohr
Second.
and a second by Mr. Stein to approve that change. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And finally, we have point 3, which is DBC, the budget deadlines and schedules.
Yes, similar pattern, change from trust and agency to custodial under the September 30th note, and then added the /April up near the top for the budget, and no changes from first reading to second reading, so recommend approval.
Okay, could we have a motion for that one?
I move that we accept the policy change for policy DBC.
Motion by Mr. Iverson. Second by Ms. Moulton. Comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And under 6.7, our student enrollment requests.
We do not have either open enrollments or 132810s this evening for you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on then, we'll go to topic 7, which is communications. And first of all, any administrative reports?
Yes, a couple of announcements on board meetings here in the month of April. We intend to have a public meeting to talk about athletic facility possibilities on April 19th, 5:30 p.m. We'll have that in the Watertown Administrative Office, specifically looking at a stadium project that will be discussed yet this spring. So 5:30 on April 19th in the Watertown Administrative Offices. And then we have our annual board budget meeting also at 5:30. That will be 2 weeks from this evening, Monday, April 25th, and we will hold that again at the Watertown Administrative Office. Both are at 5:30 p.m. Yes, April 19th and then April 25th.
Okay, thank you. Any other items in the administrative report? Okay, if not, 7.2, is there anything for the board to report to the superintendent?
Dr. Danielson, do you have an update for the alternative ed committee that's been meeting? Are they going to give us final recommendations?
Yeah, we actually just met again today internally on that. We're looking at the possibilities based off of staffing and location. So I would say as of this afternoon, about 2:30, we are going to reconvene next week, and so should have something for you, hopefully in May.
Thank you.
I'm just going to share some information on the free meals ending. We sent out communication to families last week in terms of the free meals ending at the close of this school year. Congress did vote against covering school meal costs going forward into the 2022-23 school year. Starting in the fall of 2022, parents and guardians will again be responsible for paying for school meals. We are urging families to plan ahead now. The school sent out last week a packet of information regarding the eligibility requirements to qualify for free and reduced school meals. We are asking families to fill out the 21-22 form in order to provide a 30-day grace period in the fall, giving more time to complete it for the 2022-23 school year. So look for that information, and we just ask families to read up on that and make sure that you're planning ahead for next year. Another thing is that we currently information is out. Petitions can be taken out to run for school board. Those are available in the business office, and they are to be returned on Friday, May 13th at 5 p.m. We currently have 2 3-year terms open with a June 21st school board election. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Heidi. The next item on our agenda is an executive session for the purpose of negotiations. Could I have a motion to go into executive?
I move we go into executive session.
Motion by Ms. Moulton
Second.
and a second by Mrs. Lohr. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you, everybody, for coming this evening.
For those members of the press, we will email out a press release on the negotiations. That would be the only probable action after the executive session.